I'm sure you're aware that Gyokeres and Sporting have been going at it the last few days. Reports that Gyokeres is fuming with Sporting, may refuse to go on pre-season and play for them again because Sporting apparently told Gyokeres they'd let him go for 58 million. They now want 70, 80 million to sell Victor Gyokeres. And the problem is clubs like Manchester United, they like Victor Gyokeres, they want Victor Gyokeres. They might be able to pay 58 million for Gyokeres if some sales go through. But you won't see Manchester United spending 80 million on Gyokeres. I'd be very surprised unless they were desperate. And Gyokeres knows that this new price tag he's been given is going to make it more difficult for him to find a new club. And to be honest, it's not been the easiest for Gyokeres. I thought he would have been snapped up by now, and he hasn't been. Now, reportedly, Arsenal are backing for Gyokeres. I think they're going to get Sesko, but reports in Portugal suggest a Gyokeres hijack. And with Gyokeres' price going up, with the Arsenal talks, with the whole situation, there's a player on the market called Victor Osimhen. I'm sure you're very familiar with him. He rejected a big money deal to go to Saudi because he now wants to play in Europe. Now he might be asking for more respectable wages. Manchester United may see this guy as just as affordable as Gyokeres, and if Osimhen and Gyokeres are going to cost the same package, fee, everything, well, Osimhen is the better player, and United have started to hold talks with Osimhen because they know the player dreams of a move. We've got two deals that we will announce next month in some youngsters as well. We've got some links to James Trafford, new goalkeeper, and more. But yes, hello. Welcome back to Alice Talks Football. And this video is all your latest Manchester United news rounded up in 10 minutes. If you do enjoy today's video, feel free to hit the like button. And of course, you're welcome to subscribe if you're new and want to stay up to date on all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates, and more. So Record Portugal said this. Now, Record Portugal aren't reliable, but they aren't not reliable in the sense of they're one of the better outlets from Portugal. I'd put them in the second tier. And they are saying that Gyokeres' agent met with Arsenal and Manchester United officials yesterday. Both clubs are preparing to present an official proposal to Sporting in the next few hours. Now, what we do know and what's been confirmed by reliable sources is that, yes, Arsenal had talks and conversations with Gyokeres in the past, and Manchester United have had some recent talks and conversations meeting Gyokeres' agent. Things are ongoing. Gyokeres has given an indication to both Arsenal and Manchester United he'd be willing to join them. So look, I don't know if there was a meeting yesterday. I don't know if that aspect of it was true, but we know that he's met up with United. We know that he's met up with Arsenal. We know talks have gone well on the United side. I'm sure talks have gone well on an Arsenal side. Something tells me Arsenal are pursuing Benjamin Sesko, but you never know. They might think, you know what, this guy's a bit more experienced, a bit more ready-made to take us from second to first, whereas I guess Sesko's more of a project. So it is one to watch. Now, interestingly, they did also say that his agent is currently meeting Arsenal officials and that Arsenal are the club closest to submitting his official offer, and the player believes the Arsenal project matches his ambition, and Arsenal are about to make an official offer. So there's now talks and reports coming in regards to Gyokeres that Arsenal were there, they're going to make an official offer, they're the closest to getting Gyokeres, they're leading the race for Gyokeres. When 3 days ago it felt like Manchester United were going to get Gyokeres and were leading the race for Gyokeres, and it was a feeling inside Man United, apparently according to reliable sources, that they were confident a deal could be done for Gyokeres, but they can't do anything until the sales are done. They're going for Mbumo, they're going for sales, they will go for Gyokeres later in the month because Arsenal seem to be pursuing Sesko. Now, I've always said, and I said it in my live stream yesterday, Portuguese media know that they can clickbait Arsenal fans, and they've made a lot of reports about Gyokeres to Arsenal. They've had so many reports that say personal terms agreed and this agreed, when in fact nothing has been agreed. So we always have to take Portuguese media with a pinch of salt. If Sammy Mokbel says it, if David Ornstein says it, if Laurie Whitwell says it, then Gyokeres to Arsenal is definitely one to watch. I'm not too worried as of yet of an Arsenal hijack, but I do think if Arsenal wanted Gyokeres, they could definitely beat us to him with the Champions League football that they can offer. So it will be interesting. Ben Jacobs did also add in regards to Victor Gyokeres that Sporting aren't blocking his exit, they just want a higher fee, and clubs like United might pay 70 million euros, but they won't be paying 75 or 80 million euros, which is what Sporting are now demanding 80 plus million euros for Gyokeres, which is one of the reasons Gyokeres is frustrated. I also think, could Sporting be putting out news that Arsenal are ready to make a bid to try and see if they can get more out of United? I think Arsenal going for Sesko. I think Sporting could brief to Portuguese media that Arsenal are going to make a bid to try and scare Man United to make a bid. I think Sporting want 80 million euros for Gyokeres, let's say. But if Arsenal get Sesko and Man United are the only team that go in for Gyokeres at the end of the window, then Man United could say, well, we're not going to do it we'll only do it for 65. And then they have a choice of, you keep Gyokeres that's unhappy and refusing to play, or you sell him for 65 million euros because all the other clubs are out. Arsenal's got Sesko. Maybe that's something to watch. But yeah, Gyökeres to Arsenal, Osimhen to Manchester United. Could Manchester United be working on an Osimhen deal? Because Osimhen has made it clear his dream move is Manchester United. And interestingly, the United stand said today, go check out their YouTube channel. I'm sure you already know who they are. They're massive. They revealed that United have held further talks with Victor Osimhen. So the United stand has said that Manchester United have held further talks with will hold. They have not yet, but the United stand, has said United will hold further talks with Victor Osimhen on two conditions: if he shows genuine interest in joining and lowers his wage demands. So the United stand is saying we will hold further talks with Osimhen on two conditions: if he shows genuine interest and lowers his wage demands. Now we know that Osimhen has showed genuine interest. I know, reliable people have said Osimhen, dream move is Man United. He's shown and given indications to United. He has genuine interest in going to United. He would say yes to joining Manchester United if the right terms could be agreed. That is the question. Can the right terms be agreed for Osimhen? So obviously we will hold some further talks with him to see how interested he is. We know he's interested. He's made it clear he's open to the move. The problem is, I think if Osimhen said I would come to United on 200k a week, F Gyökeres, I think we'd be going for Osimhen. What we do know is he's decided not to move to Saudi because he wants to stay in Europe. We also know he's keen on a move to United and would be open to hearing from the club as long as they can agree a fee with Napoli. So it's not just agreeing Osimhen's wages, it's about agreeing a fee with Napoli. And Romano said that back in March. Romano's always said that Osimhen is keen on Man United, he's keen to join United, like he's given those indications. It's just, can United and him agree on a wage, and then United got to agree a fee with Napoli. But he right now is looking like he's going to be cheaper than Gyokeres. And let's be honest, he's the better player. It was also said by Gazzetta that Osimhen is dreaming of a move to Man United and that Napoli want suitors to meet the 63 million release clause, but United are considering adding Xerxes to their move. If I'm Manchester United, I would give them 50 million and Højlund on loan. I would try and offer 50 million and Højlund on loan because I think Napoli is sort of desperate to offload him. I think 55 million. I think because they're a bit desperate to offload, I don't think we necessarily would need to meet the 63 million clause. I reckon you could do something 50, 55 million pounds, chuck Højlund in loan there. I wouldn't get rid of Xerxes. I think Xerxes' versatility is important and he's very good and he can be the backup. But that's what I'd look to do if I was Manchester United. And look, I think Galatasaray have got Leroy Sané coming in. They're sort of out of the race. Saudi's out of the race. Like, let's be honest. What do we know on it? So what we know so far is Osimhen rejected 300k, it's not 300k, 700k a week from Saudi. I think it was over 800,000 euros. So like that's bad money, and he knows he'd never get that money in Europe. So the fact that he rejected that from Saudi says to me he never wanted Saudi, and actually maybe he was using Saudi interests to try and get more wages out of the clubs in Europe. The clubs in Europe willing to offer him 200k a week, he wanted 300k a week. So then he had those talks with Saudi, maybe hoping that a European club would come in and offer him 300k a week. Galatasaray signing Sane and giving him over 400k a week says pretty much that they don't have the room for Osimhen financially now. If I'm Osimhen, though, and I see that Galatasaray have given Sane 400k a week, I feel like he might be like, whoa. Osimhen prefers a move to the Premier League or PSG, and United and Chelsea and PSG are seen as his three dream clubs, have been reported. United have always admired Osimhen. We had talks with him earlier in the window. There was a lot of links to him in February, but a lot of that was agent driven. And with Gyokeres' price rising, United are in talks with Osimhen's camp. They're looking at the deal, but it's about the reasonable wages. United, I think, would be willing to give him 250k a week. I think we could give him 250k a week, particularly if Sancho, Rashford, and Antony go. If you get Sancho, Rashford, and Antony off the wage bill, we can definitely give him 250k a week. Obviously, Antony looks like he could be going to Betis. Sancho and Rashford are the difficult ones, but if you get them off the wage bill, we probably could give him 250k a week. And look, Osimhen would say yes to United if the terms are right. I think he's realised now that if he wants to go to a big club, it's going to be around 200k a week. And I think, it's good money. He's got to be willing to accept that. So let's wait and see with Osimhen, but I would rather him than Gyokeres. Continuing on. Diego Leon and Enzo Cannabich are expected to be announced around January time due to certain regulations. So they're two young signings we've made. Enzo Cannabich is a young French striker. Diego Leon is the left wing back from Paraguay. We've also on the verge of signing and apparently have already agreed and pretty much signed the young centre back as well from Southampton. So just like last summer, we brought Obi in and we brought Kone in. and we brought Heaven in the January window. We're now doing the same with Leon, Enzo, which is always good to see with United and youth. And also, there was a few links to James Trafford. Ben Jacobs was on the Football Terrace, and he did say that Manchester United like James Trafford, but he wants to be number one now. And from the club's perspective, was to find players under 25 and under 23 that could provide competition to Onana. Now, look, I do think James Trafford is overrated, and I do think he's overpriced, but I do think he could definitely provide good competition to Onana. If you could get James Trafford for 15 million quid, you'd do it. Apparently, Burnley want around 30 million quid for him, and he's not worth that one bit. You might as well have kept Dean Henderson. Anyway, thank you for watching today's transfer news show. All the news is rounded up in 11 minutes for you guys. I should be back live 5:30 tonight, depending on the news. Might be earlier, might be later, depends on the news and what comes out. Thank you for watching. Bye.